Hello, and welcome to Education Chat, a podcast made by students for students. My name is Alyssa Ray,
And hi, I'm Alicia Paulino.
and in today's episode, we're going to be recapping our favorite moments from this year.
We've had so many guests this year with such a wide variety of backgrounds and culture. And just looking back, we've had a total of 12 episodes this year.
We talked to so many different guests, most of them being students themselves, and we managed to speak with a few from different colleges. To name a few, such as CSU San Bernardino, Cal Poly Pomona, USC, CSU Channel Islands, CSU Redlands, Barstow Community College. We have had so many different student interviews from sprinkled around from every college in between in the area.
That was a lot of schools. Are you sure there's no more?
There might be some that we missed, but a lot of them have been from Barstow Community College that we've interviewed and CSU San Bernardino,
Our two mains.
our two main,
Yes.
and Redlands. I feel like we've had those three are our three most places that we've interviewed from.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like regardless of like the school in general, me and Alyssa are just so happy that we were able to give these students a platform to be able to share their story and to give them the space to do so. So we're really happy about that.
Definitely. I'm very proud of ourselves, of our work that we've done this year. I feel like we were a little hard on ourselves throughout the year, trying to push out as much content as possibly we could. But, at the end of the day, what really matters is quality over quantity, and I think we've mastered to do that this year. So I thought it would be a great way to end the year by looking back on some highlights from our favorite episodes this year.
I think that's a good idea. And also, it gets to just see the growth from because when we started in August or January, no, January.
No, we started in December. Our first episode ever was in December of
Yes,
last year.
2021 December. That's crazy.
Yeah, so
Oh my
it's been a
God.
year. So
Oh
yay! Our
my
1 year
God.
anniversary.
But yes, it's been a whole year of education chat.
I know. Looking back, what was your favorite episode this year? To name a few.
Not to say that I have any biases. I
Of
love
course.
all of our guests individually, but I would have to say, without a doubt, my favorite episode would have to be Kevon Lee's story. You knew what's coming.
Yeah, I knew it was coming because that's my favorite as well.
I adored that episode because I didn't know anything about like foster care, so I was a little nervous to like sit down with him because
Yeah,
it's such a vulnerable like topic, right?
it
And
is. Yeah.
thing I wanted to do was offend our guests or say something that was like out of pocket or out of line. But Kevon, I think his personality just really helped to carry the conversation and make that episode what it is. So shout out to Kevon.
Not to play favorites or
Not to
anything.
play, we love all of you.
They're our favorites, but but that was definitely a great episode. There was
Yes.
just so much depth to it, and for us jumping into it as the interviewers, we had to do so much research, and we found out so much ourselves. We learned so much, and to just hear someone who has gone through the foster care system speak about his experience was just so enlightening. And so, with that being said, let's just jump into a clip from Kevon's interview.
I say roll the clip. Welcome to Education Chat.
It's great to be here.
So can you start by telling us a little bit about your upbringing and background?
So I was born in San Bernardino, California. And then around the age of 5, I'm not going to get in too deep, just a little summary. Around the age of 5, I entered the foster care system. And so I was in that system until I was 9. That's when my grandmother, she moved from Mississippi to down here to basically just adopt me. And then once the adoption was final when I was 9, we moved back to Mississippi. And that's where I was raised until my sophomore year of high school. Then I came back. When I got back out here, I took, advantage of that. And then I went into college, and that's where I discovered what I want to do in life, advocate. I wanted to be an activist. I wanted to speak on a national level. So I'm getting opportunities to do that. Another opportunity that came was right before I graduated, was authoring a book. So I got that out. Now I'm in the master's program right now.
It's been a while since I've watched this clip, and so I just forgot how much he's done
Yeah.
in his life in a short amount of time. It's crazy.
Smiling like I love Kevon.
I know. I love this episode.
I really do.
Cal Baptist for Higher Education, Leadership, and Student Development. And I'm just working hard.
for many people, it's hard to really sit down and imagine what it's like to be in the foster system and what all of that entails. So can you describe what it's actually like to be in foster care?
I mean, I was a young kid. I was 5 years old. And so you having that question of where's my mom? Where's my dad? I'm not living with them. You're 5 years old. You see what's happening, but it's not registering in your brain because, you know, you're too young to actually know what's going on. I feel as if my experience wasn't as bad as a lot of people that I hear. But one thing I would say is it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's lonely. It could get lonely because you miss your family, you miss your parents. And a lot of kids who actually go into foster system, they grow resentment towards their family because it's like, what did you do for me to be in this system? In my case, my mother and father were on drugs. That's a whole nother story. I ended up getting shot at the age of 5. And so that's what put me in the foster care system. The woman who was my foster mother, she was a good woman. She was definitely a good woman. She made sure I had everything I needed. She made sure I ate. She made sure I had clothes on my back. We lived in a better part of San Bernardino. I had my own room. So that part was good. And then my grandmother had me for like the last year until she adopted me.
That was only like a 2-minute clip that we just watched, and you you could just gain so much from just that. Like his story of growing up and getting shot at 5. Wow.
And I think the thing, like for me, that was like the most eye-opening is that this is in San Bernardino. Like this is down the street. This is
Close to home.
this is in the IE. So like the fact that like this is happening like next door in a sense is just, I didn't know the San Bernardino got down like that. You know, like this is an issue. So just hearing like someone's story so close to home was just like, wow, just wow.
To our next guest, we have Life on the Spectrum, Eileen Laxley.
Again, one of our other favorites. Oh,
Mhm. Eileen is such a special interview that we had because it was again something that Alysha and I knew very little about, you know, life on the spectrum, and like the different stages of autism or the different levels and types, I guess. So we had to do a lot of research on that as well, and it was very interesting to learn about.
I really think like we got like lucky with like our guests. All of our guests are just so open and honest and vulnerable to share their story. And Eileen, I think, is one of the prime examples of that, for her to be so vulnerable during this interview. And you guys will see from like the short little clip, you guys will see it. So, how can people who have never been exposed to someone with autism better educate themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, autism is so complex, and like I said, there are so many different perspectives, so many different levels. I mean, there are 3 levels, but you know, like for instance, my son who can't communicate beyond basic needs, he communicates through an iPad, and he can only communicate, "I want water, I want cookies." Can't tell us if he's hurt, can't tell us anything beyond what he wants, I want. And then there are people like me who are higher functioning. It's a term that some people don't like using because it can feel dismissive, like, oh, you're high functioning, so like it must be easy for you. Or I personally don't mind using that term, but just saying some people don't like it. But it's just to show you like how different it is. So I feel like someone who wants to educate themselves would have first to understand that you know, there's that saying, if you know one autistic person, you know one autistic person. And it really shows how diverse everyone on the spectrum is. Just like people who are not on the spectrum, right? We're all individuals. We all have our own differences. And I think that's where it starts. Understanding that people on the spectrum are different, and you won't hear from those who are the most severely affected on social media.
I do want to add to that. So like I really also like just thinking back, because I think about how my mentality shifted after this like interview. Because I remember like I was one of those people who had these like implicit biases that, you know, autism is just one thing. But for her to say that like there's 3 different levels, 3 different spectrums, it's just like, I didn't know any of that. And also, the thing with Eileen, herself plus her two sons are both, all three of them are autistic. So she was able to bring three different perspectives into this lifestyle. So I think like that's just really, really just, it was again just a pleasure to talk with Eileen.
I was just gonna say that it's crazy that we got Eileen on the show because she is kind of this public figure online. She
She's
has a
an
big
author,
following.
blog post, a mother. She recently just had a baby as well. Like Eileen, she was pregnant during this interview.
Yeah.
So just, and she is from Texas as well. So for us to like work that out, the time zone, all that type of stuff was just like when we got the email that like we got confirmed that she was meeting with us, I was so nervous. I know Alyssa was nervous too, because we were like, oh my God, we're speaking with Eileen. Like how
Yeah.
happened?
Like she's just so accomplished in everything that she's done, it feels like. So it was an honor to interview her, and that's why I think this is another personal favorite of mine. So the next episode that I pulled a highlight from was higher education and students with disabilities, which was another great episode. I love all of our episodes.
We keep saying that, like we should have like a time count for how many
I
times
know,
we say I
we
love.
should. But that's another great episode. And we interviewed Adrian. He had such a great story. Alysha, take it away.
Adrian, where do I start? No, Adrian was great. He was actually one of the first people we've ever interviewed. Like before Education Chat was even a thing, we actually had an episode. What was it? Students. Oh my God, what was it? I'm blanking.
Student voice panel or
Student
something.
voice panel, yeah. It was about uplifting current students in the IE, and that's how kind of Education Chat was born. And Adrian was one of the people that we talked to, and his story was just so like, I think not his story, but his personality. Adrian's personality is so like captivating. I think this interview was the most I've like laughed or like giggled or like chuckled. He is just so funny.
He's so funny.
Yeah, it's like a 10-10. So you guys will see. I think like the clip you pulled will be able to show like highlight his like personality. So yeah.
I think so too. Roll the clip. Can you tell us how being visually impaired has been in regards to your schooling, and what has that journey been like to you?
So it's definitely been an interesting kind of journey. It started in high school, right? So I was born with congenital glaucoma. So I wasn't born with my disability. It was kind of put on me spontaneously, and then that I kind of had to deal with the repercussions. Kind of finding, my own way of doing things and learning how to accommodate for myself and talking to those professors. And it wasn't easy at first. I didn't even know if college was going to be a thing at the time. Unfortunately, I did have some negative experiences. I was actually taking a dual enrollment course when all this kind of started. And unfortunately, the professor, when I tried to like talk to him about, hey, maybe like doing some accommodations, he basically told me that it would probably be best that I just drop the course and that it might not be for me. And, it's unfortunate because a lot of students might have experienced that or might not know how to go about that process.
It's interesting because I feel like we've had a couple of instances where we have our guests explain like parts of their struggle about their story, and they'll usually say like, I had this one teacher that said you can't do this, or someone say this isn't for you. And it's just an interesting thing that we constantly are hearing, that the students in the area are being told that they can't do certain things. It's so frustrating.
It really is. Like, is the camera on me? Educators, do better. But
you
no,
need to do better.
Do better. I think like to my own, like I'm thinking about like my schooling. I have a lot of students in my own classes who talk about how they need OSD accommodations. OSD is the Office of Students with Disabilities, meaning that like when we take tests, students with disabilities get more time, or they get like special requirements. I know a lot of students who say, oh, I have an OSD requirement, and the professors are like, oh, I don't see it on my roster. You just have to take the test. Like, how would that make a student with an accommodation feel? That then like causes anxiety, stress. Like you see the student and you see their face just kind of like drop because they're gonna have to like do it like everybody else, even though they have like this requirement. It's just, oh, let me stop before I go on my little rant. But it's just so annoying. It's so annoying. But
We could definitely go on and on about this forever because there's just so many like injustices that happen on campus on a daily basis. But that's for another episode.
Because Adrian's story is just one of many, you know? So it's just do better.
Yes. In short, do better.
In short, do better. That's our new episode title, do better.
And luckily, you know, having the people in my life, they were kind of helping me through that entire process of learning and being able to, you know, get into a community college. Didn't get to go where I originally wanted to stay closer to home, just, you know, because I wasn't able to drive anymore. But it was definitely a new experience, and there was a big learning curve of learning how to you know, have those conversations with the professors, going to student disability services, and getting the accommodations that I need to be successful. So it wasn't easy, but I think the journey of, you know, getting turned down and having to figure out how to do things myself, you know, with luckily, you know, support, definitely made it a worthwhile journey.
But our last highlight clip that we have that came upon so fast, but is from our last episode that we recently published, which is the inspiring story of a first-gen Latinx graduate. And that is with our guest, Mimi Jolly. She had a very interesting story about her upbringing and how, you know, she was, I don't know if she was one of the oldest in her family, but basically
She was the oldest.
She was? Okay. Well, she had to navigate, you know, getting out of poverty by herself and like trying to better herself and have a better future, go to college and all that. And she had no one there to teach her how. She had to learn herself.
So with that, I do want to kind of jump into what kind of inspired you to pursue your education as a first generation Latinx student, and your upbringing, what essentially just made you want to follow through with your higher ed.
Yeah, so I felt like I didn't have a choice. So I was the firstborn daughter of a Mexican American Latinx family, you know, first generation. My parents came from Mexico when they were 18, 19. And, you know, they started off, you know, relying on other people to, you know, get ahead in life. And as the firstborn, everything was kind of set on, you are going to be the person who gets us out of this cycle of poverty. You're going to be the one that helps your siblings, helps your family, right? And so that type of mentality was always ingrained, you know, and so I was really, you know, great at like academics, and I started like reading at a young age, and it was just like this emphasis on education is the way you're going to make it out of poverty.
I wanted to pull this clip because I feel like so many first generation students can relate to it. And it's surprising that it took us this long to hear a story like this, I feel, because I feel like it's kind of common, you know, when you're the firstborn and you're a first generation student, no one in your family has done that thing before. You have all this pressure on you. You have zero help from your family, and it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. Like filling out FAFSA feels almost impossible when you have no help and no experience. And just like navigating applications and taking classes and everything in general, it's just a lot for someone who's a first generation student.
College experience in general is just really nerve-wracking. Like it's so funny when like a lot of older like generations talk about college like it's just a walk in the park, but it's so many steps and so many levels that a lot of people just fail to mention when it comes to college.
Mm-hmm. With that being said, I mean, it's obviously a lot of pressure for one person to have on their shoulders. Can you describe what other types of pressures come with being the first person in your family to go to college?
Yeah, so you basically are expected to teach your siblings and teach everyone who comes to you on how to navigate those systems. So my family didn't go to college. My father, you know, only received a 6th grade education. My mother dropped out, you know, in 9th grade. And so they didn't have, you know, experience with higher education. They didn't have high school diplomas. So, you know, my siblings, when they were pursuing, you know, their general education, I was the one that they would go to to seek out guidance and to assist with homework assignments or, interpreting certain documents that my parents didn't know how to even, understand. They didn't know the language well enough.
She just reiterated everything that we just said, all the pressure. Poor Mimi, honestly. Like,
They
I
put
get
Mimi,
it.
they put her
Yeah,
through the ringer.
yeah, like I get it. Like I said, well, like you said, I'm a first generation student as well, and so I can relate to her as well, but like her story is a lot more intense than mine was, like she had to
Yeah.
translate documents for her parents to understand, and there's just a lot of layers to it. And then just I wasn't the oldest either, so I had to figure it out for myself, and I didn't have to teach it to my siblings. Like she had to basically be the third parent.
And that's a lot of like, that's kind of like a lot of the reality for a lot of older siblings is you essentially are the third parent.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of all of our clips. But I mean, let's see some honorable mentions really
Yes.
quick. Let's see. Because we had, like we said, we had 12 episodes. I think we knocked it out of the park with the ones that we did have. Should schools go back to virtual learning in 2022? That was our first episode of the year. Crazy to think how far we've come, right? I mean, COVID's still a thing, but it's not as like present and in the news as it was then. It was like our whole life then.
Yeah. And like we were talking about monkeypox came and went.
Yeah.
So it's just like, especially this season with like the flu and like all these other different viruses, stay safe. Get your hand sanitizer.
Yeah. Same message still applies. Then we also had the struggles and successes of student parents, which was another great episode. I mean, us not being parents ourselves, it's a different perspective.
Yeah, because I know the main just ideology for that episode was school itself is so hard. Imagine having to take care of another human on top of that. Like even like me, like when I'm done with the paper, I just want to sleep. Imagine you have a paper and now you have to like feed your baby. You have to. That's exhausting just to think about it. So I really commend parents who are going to school because that's a whole different ballpark that me and Alyssa can never speak on. But I'm really happy we're able to talk to someone who is actually really near and dear to me and get her story.
And then we had Elevating Black Student Voices, which was our Black History Month episode special. Another great episode. We had, I want to say 3 students.
It's 3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, we would have loved to have more. It's an ongoing thing with our shows where we try to have at least 3. Sometimes they fall through.
It's okay. Life happens.
We do what we can. We send out the feelers. We're like, hey, we want to hear from you. Sometimes they don't want to be heard. But we do try to make it a point on this show to kind of showcase the different cultures and heritages. Yeah.
Heritages.
Yeah.
Heritages.
But like whenever there's like a blank history month, we like to have an episode that centers around that, which brings us to our next episode, which was the Women's History Month. That was a great episode. We had a lot of people fall through for that one, so Alysha and I jumped in, and then we had 2 other guests as well. Of course, we could speak on it because we're women and we have experiences.
We know the struggles and the beauty that comes with it. So that episode is also right here in the heart. Another good episode.
The next one that we had was the graduation special, which is another great episode. I think that we're going to continue to do that throughout the years to highlight our student graduates because they have a lot of amazing stories to share.
And graduating is just such a big moment. Of course, we have to celebrate that. And again, every single graduate is different. Every single story is different. So graduates, May of 2023, we want to hear your story.
Your time to shine. Then we had Why Equity Matters in Education System.
One of my, again, personal faves. I think it was just really enlightening to talk with Christy and just because, like, again, I've always struggled with equity versus equality. And I'm not afraid to admit that at my big age. I'll admit it. I do equity versus equality. But Christy, just the way she broke it down and had me going, like I had like a little light bulb moment. And I think she was our she was the only educator we've talked to who had like, right?
I believe so, yeah.
She was our only educator, so she had a whole different perspective compared to like our student population.
And then we had the power of leading by example, Jessie's story.
She went to school, stopped, and returned when she was an adult. But she returned to school because her kids were her kids were gonna start school, and she wanted to lead by example. So the whole point of the episode was to show why leading by example is so important. So she was like, as a parent, why am I going to force my kids to go to school if I myself haven't gone to school and seen the struggles?
And then we had the Hispanic Heritage Month special with Brittany Villagran.
Yes.
I believe.
Guatemala, loved it.
She was so funny.
She was hilarious.
So
again, her and Adrian, comedians.
She had so much to share and talk about. She could she really took the whole episode away. It was her show.
Me and Alyssa were just like in the background.
Yeah, I love it when we have guests like that too, when they could just speak for hours and hours, and like the content is there's actually like depth to what they're saying.
Like the cool thing about her is that she brought in her own like personal stories, which I remember, like the one that comes to the top of my head. She had a septum piercing. And she was talking about how like her grandpa would if her grandpa saw her now, he would like die or call her like a bull or something. And I was like, what? She's so funny. But like the story, it made a point because she was talking about like her older, like the people in her life, the generational differences. So it had a point as to why she told the story. But like her stories just like they mattered. Like they made the episode what it is now. So
yeah.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you, Brittany. And thank you to all our guests that we had this year. So many great ones. As we've already mentioned, we've gone on about all of our guests being awesome because they are. And I think I speak for Alysha and myself when I say that we're both very excited for what the new year has in store, what new episodes and topics we're going to be sharing with you guys. And I'm just really excited for 2023.
Can I tell you a secret?
Yes.
I'm excited too. I am very excited. Education Chat Season 3.
Season 3. Yeah.
This year, me and Alyssa, I can't really speak again on you, but I have learned so much about myself through these past couple of months. Not only did I change through my hair, I've changed mentally. I've changed physically. I've changed a lot. Like I remember when we first started, I was so nervous to just like speak and be confident in my
for sure.
Mess. Like if you guys watch the previous episodes, I kind of cringe. I'm like, who is that? But now I'm just like excited to get to, like, for me, I love follow-up questions and I really pride myself in that. So like I just love having those organic conversations, going off script a little bit and just keeping it real, because that's what we're all about.
Alysha is our follow-up queen. She gets all the juice from our guests, and I really applaud her for that, because sometimes I can't think on the fly about a follow-up question, and I don't want to keep the guests waiting, and I'm like, and then Alysha jumps in.
I'll jump in.
So, tell me about your childhood. You know, and
tell me about the street you lived on.
Yeah, I love that we have found a way to balance each other out on the show, and it's been great working.
Yes, like you too, like you have your own like qualities. Like I bring what I bring to the table, you bring what you bring to the table. Like I don't think you guys know, but Alyssa is our behind the scenes everything. All the edits you see, Alyssa does that. So I just want to like take this moment to like shout out and give Alyssa a little round of applause for everything you do behind the scenes for Education Chat.
Thank you.
Yes, we both work great as a team, so I'm really grateful for that.
I think we had a great run this year, and I can't wait to see what we do next year. So we hope that you'll join us too and join in on all the new conversations. And as always, like we've mentioned, if you have any suggestions for future episodes, leave them in the comment section down below. We love to listen to you guys. But yeah, anything else to add, Alysha?
Have a great New Year's. Stay safe and drink lots of water. Stay hydrated.
Yes. All right then.
That's all she wrote. Goodbye. Just kidding.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.